Yeah, so how's everything going, man? How's everything been? Before we kind of dive into, I just want to have a quick catch up. Everything going well in the agency world? How's
Yes,
how's life going?
it's going well, as well as the canon agency world. There's always ups and downs, right? It's always
Always,
something new.
always. So let's give people a little background. You know, you and I had when we last met, which was what, 2 months ago, maybe now?
I think it might even be a little bit longer, but
Even longer.
yeah, probably maybe 3 months now. But it was not too long ago, not to remember, but a while ago. Yeah.
And we were geeking out on all this marketing stuff and all this, you know, Russell Brunson and funnels, and we were just having a really good chat about our journey. So I think let's start there, because I think you know, you have a really big agency, right? A bigger agency than most people can even fathom. You know, doing multi-million dollars a year, and you have a team. I think of how many people are on your team now?
We're just under 30.
Just
Where
under
we're at.
30 full-time staff, right?
Yeah.
So
The
you
goal
know
is not to have lots of people. The goal is to have happy clients
exactly right.
less people.
Let's go back to the beginning. Let's start at the very beginning. Let's talk about the journey, because
Sure.
take people back to the I just discovered digital marketing, Matt.
Yeah, well, I mean, it came out of a need. I actually ended up doing digital marketing because I needed it for myself. And I sort of just stumbled upon it haphazardly. It was not actually a plan. I had no plan to be a digital marketer, to be in advertising at all. I was actually a trained theater actor for 10 years, through my 20s to my early 30s. And I was had my firstborn, and I was like, I can't be on the road anymore like I used to. So I was looking for something else to do, and a buddy of mine introduced me to door-to-door sales. So
Isn't that the greatest?
yeah, straight commission, door-to-door sales. And so I was selling those ATM machines and debit and credit card machines door to door to small businesses. Literally, I'd like knock on their door and be like, "Hey, are you? Do you want an ATM, or do you want to lower your rates for your credit card processing?" That's what I did. And because I was an actor, it didn't seem like that big a deal. It just felt like auditioning. You know, you do 100 doors. It was a number thing, and some one or two is going to say yes in a day, and I'd make a big fat commission on it. And I was like, "Hey, this is pretty good. I could do this 2 or 3 days out of the week and make a good living." And I didn't really have skills to do anything else. So I did that for a bit. But after, I don't know if anybody's ever done door knocking before, but after doing it for about a year, I was like, oh man, like, you know, I was good, but I was like, there's got to be a better way. So
You lasted a whole year too.
yeah, a whole year doing it. Yeah, a whole year. And then I just said, the next thing I said, oh, I know it would be easier is like, instead of running down the street knocking doors, why don't I just open up the yellow pages, call 100 businesses in one day, and then book 10 appointments for the next day. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I just made my time more efficient. So I did that. So I was literally telemarketing at home. I forced myself to do telemarketing. That's how stupid I was. And then I was like, oh man, there's gotta be a better way. So then I discovered fax broadcasting. I don't know if you remember fax machines, but that's,
So speaking of fax, I actually I was doing stuff with the CRA, and they didn't accept emails. They only wanted me to send a fax. And I was like, yo, I don't know where to find a fax. I went to like the city hall. I went to the library. Nobody had a fax. I was like,
how do I fax this to you?
It's ridiculous.
It's crazy, right? So literally that's exactly it. Is I would buy these fax broadcasts. It was basically spam fax machines. I spent $400, and they promised to fax 10,000 businesses, right?
Yeah.
And basically what happened is I would get, you know, about 100 death threats, but I sold 4 terminals, and I said, hey, $400 to make $4,000 or whatever it was. I was like, let's do it again.
It's 10x ROI. Forget the death threats.
I kept doing it, and then eventually I was like, "This is not good. Someone's gonna literally murder me." So I was like, my home address was on there. Like it was terrible. And so I was like, And then I realized there was this Google thing. This is, early days Google. I said, I think there's people who are searching for this. And I had a friend of mine who had knew how to build websites, and what we call today is like a landing page funnel. I had him build a one-page website, long,
Nice.
it was long copy, because I was kind of studying a little bit more at the time about direct response. Like I started thinking about how do I mail people, and so I was learning sales copy at the end of the day. And I picked up a book called The Definitive Guide by Google AdWords by Perry Marshall, and taught myself how to do AdWords. And then next thing I knew was my phone was ringing off the hook, and I was more like an order taker than I was a salesperson. I was like, I finally arrived. I was like, this is it,
People are coming to me?
Yeah, and this is before the banks discovered like AdWords, and so like I was the only one there. Today paying for credit card processing or merchant accounts, you're going to pay, $25-$40 per click. But back then I was getting it for like $1, 50 cents, it was great. I just wish I was smart enough to spend more money. If I look back now, I would have spent more faster.
Yeah.
But you live and learn. So that's how I got into this. At the end of the day, what ended up happening was I became one of the top salespeople, but I was smart enough to build my own brand, my own website. So they didn't know what I was doing. And then I hired someone to be the order taker for me. And then I spent 2 years learning everything I could about digital marketing. So I probably bought every shitty course out there, under the sun, you name it. I bought it.
Same.
And, a lot of it I didn't even use, my regret is I didn't need all those things today. But at the time I felt like, because I had no education in this, I felt this need to just consume. Until finally someone said to me, you know what, more than the average small business owner does, like 100 times more. I was like, you know what?
Exactly.
Actually, I do. And I was like, I should do this, for them. And so then I had no testimonials or anything. So I had a couple friends who had some small businesses. Like one was a handyman, another was a contractor, and one was a massage therapist. And I just said, can I just do your marketing for free? And then just I can build some case studies. And you guys give me a testimony. And they were like, yeah, sure. And I blew it up for them. Even one of them, they told me to stop because it was too many phone calls. They were overwhelmed. They're like, please stop doing what you're doing. Take it down. Take it all down.
Too much money. Please stop.
Yeah, I was like, what? Just answer the phone. Hire someone. What's the problem?
Yeah, grow your business.
Yeah, but that's not what they wanted. They just wanted a little bit of work, right? So at that point, I was like, okay. And then I opened up an agency called Small Business Online Coach. And that was in 2010.
2010. So you know what's funny? A lot of people stop themselves from starting because they're like, well, I don't have the testimonials, I don't have this, I can't get clients, I can't pay for ads. It's like, you know what? Get off your ass, go and actually help someone.
Yeah.
Get them results. If you actually want to do this, get them results.
Yeah.
And then leverage that. Most people I find want it easy, right? They're just like, well, let me build my funnel first so that people come to me and I don't have to get off my couch and I don't have to call anybody and let's just build this machine that makes me money today, as opposed to actually going after and helping your customer and the person you want to help. So, okay, in 2010, you started this agency.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the start of the agency, because I remember when I started my agency, I remember the process it went through. Let's talk about the negative side first. What was that first 6 to 12 month journey for you on? Let's talk about the highs, but let's talk about the lows as well.
Yeah, well, I think the lows are always whenever you're an entrepreneur and you're starting something new, the lows is always all the other things you sacrifice in your life, family, friends, etc. So, when you start out, the hours you're working are, 12, 15, 18 hours. I mean, even when I started going, if there was something that needed to be done, the buck stopped with me. I would work 24 hours to get it done. You got to do it. Right. So that that's sort of the trade-off. When you want to do something great, you have to be a little fanatical at the beginning, right? That's just comes with the territory. And just like you said, the reason why most people fail or don't get going is the inability to actually take action, right? And get in there, get their hands dirty, and just get going. So that's the low. Like definitely, you know, my partner in crime, she definitely didn't see me for years. You know, not even the first few months. Like the hustle was on. And then the other low was just not understanding my value and what I add. Like if I could go back, the biggest mistake I made was not charging enough. Like I kid you not, when I started out, I gave away, my first offer starting in 2010 was free websites, $150 per month doing Google Maps local SEO. Now it was really easy back then because all you had to do was keyword stuff the Google Maps listing.
Yeah.
And you basically ranked in what was at that point a 10 pack. It went from 10 to 7 to 3 to what it is today. But it wasn't as difficult. Like, you know, things are harder today than it used to be. So it was easier to charge that, but it was still way underpriced by a ton, like 20 times underpriced than what it needed to be back then. And when you don't charge enough, people don't take you seriously. 2, you attract the wrong type of people. 3, you don't build enough margins in your business to hire people, and then you have to work 24/7. All that kind of stuff happens. There's a ripple effect that happens in your business as you grow. It's really, really important that you charge as much as you can, and especially if you're adding value, you know, so because most people underestimate actually what they're worth.
So were you doing everything yourself?
Initially, yes. So I started, it was just me, and then like as a consultant, and then one by one I started hiring one person. And what I did with SBOC, because the prices were so low and I was charging SBOC so long, half my team was in the Philippines at the time and half was in Toronto. And I didn't know any better. What I basically did was I hired like people I knew. Because again, like you got to remember, like I was a flaky actor. I didn't have a business family. I had no business savviness at all. Like I made every mistake under the sun. And so, you know, I hired my friends and family and I just taught them what to do. Like, you do this thing. And it just was like more like factory work, you know? And then I had people at night in the Philippines, same thing. I would make screen capture videos. This is what you need to do this thing. And then I just started, you know, selling more. I would lead the strategy, be the account manager, like the relationship manager with the client, and sales. And then they would do the implementation kind of like a factory, right? That's kind of was the first iteration of the business. It's not like that today. As you can see, there's like a whole office back here.
Yeah.
Tons of people.
There's an entire team.
There's no Filipino team. It's very different, right? There's no small businesses. It's mostly enterprise, and it's, you know, it's really evolved. But so that's what it was when we started out. The first sort of little while was that.
And how did you choose your customers? Because I remember when I started, it was like, you're willing to pay me? All right, cool. I know I can help you, but it's like I personally never, at the very beginning, didn't discriminate. I was like, no, I know I can help you, so let me help you. How long did you do that before you realized that you probably wanted to?
Dude, we still make that mistake today.
Yeah, it's so true.
Like we still say yes to people we shouldn't say yes to sometimes. We still don't niche down and verticalize enough. You know, sometimes it gets so big, it gets away from me. It's hard to correct. But if I was to give someone advice not to make some of the same mistakes that I've made, I'd say pick a vertical, go deep, specialize in that one vertical. It gets easier too, right? Like if you just do accountants, or you just do chiropractors, or you just do whatever, obviously you can clone out a lot of that same work and get really, really, really good at it, right? And stand out. So of course, specializing is key. I didn't do that because I was too naive and didn't know. I just took everybody and anything. So I had mostly the focus at the beginning was SMBs until I built some confidence and learned how to close enterprise clients, which is a completely different type of selling and business altogether as well too.
Yeah, I want to chat about that in just a little bit, because I am curious. I never went down the enterprise road. It was always small businesses and working with smaller clients. And one of the things I've always noticed about working with smaller clients is a lot of times they kind of are leaning on you to be their marketing team. While when you work with enterprise, it's like, I'll give you a project. Let's see how you guys do. And if you guys do well, cool. If you guys don't, well, goodbye, type of thing. That's what it seems like, which obviously adds, a ton of pressure when you're working with the small businesses. But then, on this end, it's a completely different sales cycle, completely different process to bring them on and to acquire them. But before we kind of dive into all of that difference, how long were you running your agency before you started merging with Powered by Search, and what was that transition like?
Yeah, 2014, I merged it with Powered by Search. And basically there was 3 partners that merged. There was Warren Houston, who had net connections. There was Dev Basu, who ran Powered by Search, and there was me, small business line coach. We basically were just friends. We had met each other through the internet, talking to each other, selling the same services, discovered we were in the same area, had a bunch of dinners, just because it's tough when you're doing something, like when you're a business owner. And I didn't come from that community. I had no one to talk to relate to. So I even discovered, like, some of my close friends at the time, I wanted to talk about entrepreneurship and business and digital. And they're like, it's like a different language. You're like, who are you? Like, I don't even want to hang out with you anymore, right? So I had to find a new community.
Yeah.
So I found a new community online, and it was so great to sit down and have dinner with these guys and be able to talk about this. We're all going through the same struggles. And after a while, we realized, maybe we should just like divide and conquer and come together. And we kind of joked about it. And then next thing we knew, we were having dinners planning it, and grabbed a lawyer and made it happen. And then we were one. From 3 to 1 is what happened.
That's cool. Let's talk about partnerships right now quickly, because a lot of people, you start off a lot of times by yourself, and you kind of go through that process by yourself.
Sure.
And then you realize that, 3 is sometimes better than 1. Sometimes it's not. I've had partnerships where it doesn't work, and it didn't work. So what have you noticed in terms of partnerships that matter most? How do you make a partnership really work? What have you noticed?
Yeah, I don't know if I've perfected that, but there's definitely some things that we've learned. Like, just being honest, like there's amazing things and pros, and there's definitely some cons. And it's like any relationship that you're in with someone, or any marriage that you have, it takes work, and it takes a lot of listening and understanding and compromise. And it's not easy, but usually the business benefits. It's better for the business, better for the clients, and better for the employees, as long as everybody stays in their lane, right? So you got to pick your roles and then stay in your lane, so there's not crossover. So that's what we did here to make it work, was just everybody picked a role. So I'm the CMO, Deb's the CEO, Warren is the CFO, right? So we pick our lane and we stay in it.
The funny thing is, like, so when I'll kind of go back when I was living in London, and I had my language business. We were 3 partners, and it was a very interesting thing because, on paper, you would see that, okay, we all had our strengths. I was kind of the CMO, and we had our operations guy who was very good, and then the CEO, and then you had could have been the COO, but then we had our technology guy who was very smart on the tech side. One of the things that I've noticed, and I give this advice to everybody I can whenever they're looking for partners, is you have to understand how committed every single person is. Because what happens is, on the surface, when you first come up with an idea, when you first get everyone's excited, right? Everyone's like pumped up, and you all want to dive into this. But then as time moves forward, as things start happening, as times get tougher and whatnot, you start to realize that everyone's not in it to the same degree, to the same level. Everyone's not. So I think you having met your partners in this environment of, they were already running their business as well, and you kind of knew them, you knew what they were all about, really is something that people should think about and consider. Because if you just go to somebody and you're like, hey, you want to start a business, chances of that working out the way that you envision it, most of the time it doesn't pan out the same way. So
yeah, it's true. Well, I can't remember where I read it or saw it, but there are some statistics around that. If you've been longtime friends or family, those partnerships are the ones that usually last versus the ones where they just met up. But due diligence is like definitely important. Like you have to look beyond just, you know, getting along or a couple meetings. Like even us, we had dinners for 6 months. Like we really sussed it out. Not that we couldn't have done more. Like if I look back, there could have been even more. Like you should think about if you're going to do a partnership in interviewing each other's clients, ones that stayed, one that's left, employees that have stayed, employees that have left, really get to know each other, you know?
Yep.
Larger companies will do this when they're acquiring something like, you know, if it's in the hundreds of millions, like they're going to hire a PI to figure out exactly what is going on in that company. And they're going to interview all aspects of it, not just the financials, right? They'll look at all parts of the business to see how risky it is to acquire or not. So you have to think about that too. A lot of people, you're absolutely right, don't dig deep enough and don't ask some of the really hard questions. Like even like thinking about getting married, like the marriages sometimes that don't necessarily work out. Often when I ask people, I'm like, they didn't talk about how many kids they wanted. They didn't talk about what they would do if a kid got in trouble at school. They didn't do all this role playing of how they would react before they got married, that once they got married, they realized they actually were operating by two different rule systems, and they're playing on two different board games. And of course it didn't work out. So it's the same thing in a partnership. You got to make sure they're on the same board game, right? So you got to role play these different scenarios. And ideally the scenarios when things go wrong, how would you deal with that, right? And then if you're aligned, then it's probably a good idea to move forward with the partnership, right? So there's someone should probably create an app for that. Should you be partners?
Yeah, exactly. An app to match partners and make sure exactly Tinder for partners for business.
Tinder for partners. Love it.
You swipe right or left just based on looks. That's how you decide. Okay, so you guys merged. Were the three companies in similar territories in the sense? Obviously, you were all digital marketing agencies, but were you all kind of serving similar types of businesses?
Yes.
All small level?
Yeah, totally. All small, all over the map. But not also some big ones. Like we started attracting bigger ones. Because here's the thing, once you start doing good work, right? Like word spreads, and it doesn't really matter what kind of company you're in, people want to start working with you. So the results always speak for themselves. And that's what people buy anyways at the end of the day. Like the mistake that people make all the time is they're not really buying, they don't really care what you're doing. They just want the outcome of that thing that you're doing, right? They buy outcomes, not the work that you're doing. So if you can just drive outcomes, you'll get work.
Yeah, exactly. And the reality, and that's the biggest thing. The biggest reason why people are afraid to raise their price is because they keep attaching the value to the actual tangible thing. You know, who cares? Yeah, when you actually crunch the numbers, a blog post, if you write 3 blog posts a month and then you post on Facebook 5 times a week and you do 1 landing page, these tangible things, yeah, okay, they amount to $500 a month. But when you actually attach it to the value that you give people and your clients, and that's what they care about. They don't care about if you can give them the same results, they don't need to know how many blog posts you wrote. They couldn't care less, right? Care. All they care about is that ROI, and they care about the value that you brought them, how many leads came in, that's what matters to them. And that's the biggest thing that I've found to shifting your mindset around charging higher prices.
It's true. Yeah, absolutely true. When you get into the larger brands, branding does matter. They do care about kind of the things that you do and how you do them. But generally speaking, for a small business crowd, they care less about that as opposed to the actual results that are being driven. So if the phone is ringing, they really don't care what it is that you're doing as long as you're doing it, and there's less things for them to do because they're usually overwhelmed anyways. That's why they hired you.
Yeah.
The only time that they start getting into your mess, like if you find that they're asking you those questions, it's probably because you're actually not driving the outcomes that they want. So then they're actually trying to help you. It feels like they're not because they're trying to get involved again, and they're only doing that because they know that's not working. They're not getting the phone calls. So you really need to look at the results you're driving at that point.
So let's talk about team and growing the team, hiring people. First of all, when you guys merged, was it a slow and steady ship, or did you was there a tipping point where it's like, poof, we're now in a rocket? Was it kind of just slow, steady growth the whole time?
Yeah, it was actually slow, steady growth, which was not actually what we wanted. We wanted the rocket, but we took 3 different leaders, 3 different cultures, 3 different people, and put them all together in one room. So it took us a little while get it sort of
Okay.
naivety. We actually thought, hey, we'll come together and in 3 months we'll divide and conquer, and here comes the rocket ship, right?
Yeah.
But that actually wasn't true. It actually took a couple years to actually get our heads screwed on right, figure out who the new company was, what is the brand, who are we going after, what is our brand positioning, what do the ideal employees look like for these roles. So it was almost like creating a brand new company, really.
Yeah.
That's kind of what ended up happening. Fortunately, we were able to continue to do great work and grow the company going through those rocky times, which is not easy to do, right? So we were partly blessed, and then also partly, I guess, smart enough to figure it all out. But it took a lot longer than we anticipated, for sure.
A lot of people ask, who's the first person I should hire when it comes to running an agency? What do you say?
That's a tough question, man. I think it depends on the product and what you're doing. If it's, software or something like that, you hire sales, right? I mean, it's done. You got to sell it, right?
Yep.
If it's, services like this, you got to make sure you're delivering a pretty good service first. So it might be more about like people who can get the work done so that you can go and sell. Generally speaking, the owner at that point should get the positioning and selling down really, really well. And that should be their only job, at least till they get to, probably a couple million or more. And then you can look at salespeople. But I don't know. I don't know if there's any right or wrong answer. And to tell you the truth, it's not like I'm some, wizard. I've done this with one business essentially, right? And I've given myself all these titles. So if I had built a few of them and done it successfully 2 or 3 times in a row, I'd feel really confident about answering that question.
Hey, you know what? Just like before, ultimately, you didn't consider yourself an expert when you went to these businesses, when you just read a Google ads.
Yeah.
Well, you have a multi-million-dollar a year agency that you've been able to grow, and you went through rocky times. You've learned probably more than anyone like who's watching has learned and gone through, especially in the agency world. So
Sure.
You are kind of an expert.
Well, listen, it's 9 years in it now, right? 2018, 10,
Yeah.
18. So 9 years doing it for sure. Have definitely learned a ton of things. And I know if I was to do it again, if I had to do it again, let's say, I would be able to shorten what we've done in 9 years. I'm sure I could do in 2 or 3, like absolutely. So yeah, for sure. It would grow so much faster,
So
going from zero to $1 million or 2 would be like 12 months. It wouldn't be a big deal.
So let's lay out those steps. 0 to $1 million. How would you go about doing it? If you were to restart from scratch today, first of all, would you go would you go on these enterprise level accounts, or would you go the kind of smaller type of business? What's the difference? And then what is that 0 to 1 million?
I don't know which one I would choose, but I think you definitely need to verticalize and productize for sure. And then what I would do is I would make sure that most of it is focused on frameworks and strategies and collaborative coaching, so you can leverage your time. So put people into groups. Also create community. So like what you're doing today, like Funnelytics, community is a big part of generating a lot of revenue and sales for any company. So if you can create an environment of community really easily, where you're adding value, you'll always have sales. So funny enough, like I actually did that at the beginning. That's how I met the local community. Like, so I started as a local SEO expert, but I only became that expert because I found all the other experts and then created a Skype group, okay, where I invited them all and said, hey, let's hang out. Like you guys are all experts. I wasn't one, but because I created it, all of a sudden they said, oh, now you're one, right? So I got to hang out with them and tag along on their coattails. And next thing I know, I'm the local SEO expert, right? So, but it was the community that was created is what elevated and created business. And even a lot of my business just came from them. Like if they didn't want it, they're like, hey, Matt, you want it? I'm like, yeah, man, I'll take it. Send it my way. So it's creating community and adding value is the first step. The second step is having positioning. The third is group coaching in some kind of way. Make sure it's based on frameworks and more of the work of people doing your work versus you doing it for them. And then the implementation is the latter half. That's the cross sells and upsells later on. And implementation today is a commodity anyways. You can hire people to do anything anywhere anyways. It's always the strategy that's the hard part. It's like garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah.
So focus on that part as much as possible as you're going, and you'll have big margins, low staff, and be able to grow very, very quickly.
And then what about when you get across that $2 million mark? What happens?
I think that's when you need to start hiring probably people, and it's all about, finding the next person. It's train the trainer, right? So train someone who's going to be able to train other people, and then let them get out of their way and let them do their thing. And that's how you start to scale up.
Okay. I want to ask you about the intent engine. I want to ask you about the framework, and when you guys started thinking through that we need to differentiate ourselves from the masses or the other agencies by having something that we consider ours and its framework. How did that come about? How important is it to your brand? How important is it for an agency owner to have one?
Super important. Yeah. You have to have one. Otherwise you will always just be another Me Too company. So you must have something that you stand for and that stands out and makes you special. And the idea is picking something that is easy to comprehend and simple and works really, really well. So that's like, we've always known that, we followed all the other geniuses before us that have created this stuff. It's kind of funny, like digital marketing was, at the beginning, digital marketing was just a whole bunch of tactics, right? But now as it's evolved and digital marketing is a little bit more harder, most people are going back to the fundamentals again. This is the ogilvy, and prior, the people came afterwards are the Frank Kerns and the Ryan Dices and the Ronald Brunsons and so forth. You got to have frameworks. You got to have a process to what it is that you do, for sure. And for two reasons. One, it's good for operations, and two, it's great for your clients as well. And three, it makes you stand out. So you're not a Me Too company. Like, yes, I do SEO. Yes, I do PPC. Who cares? That means you're just fighting on price. Who can do it the cheapest, right? As opposed to leading with strategy and having a framework, you're no longer fighting on price anymore.
Yeah, you're no longer a Me Too player, right? You're like, it actually makes you stand out, and it gives, and like you say, one of the things that you kind of realize once you create a methodology or framework around the system of the process that you go and get people results, it keeps everyone grounded to that system. It's like we follow a structure, but that structure is proven to work and it's proven to get results, and that's also what clients and customers buy into.
Totally. Yep.
So where are you now then? Where are you now in your business? You're doing. Do you mind sharing revenue? Where are you at in terms of revenue yearly?
Maybe I shouldn't share that, but we're doing well. So we're growing every year. We're actually considered Canada's fastest growing digital marketing agency right now in Canada.
Nice.
And you can see you can probably, if you look up like the profit 50 or 500, you'll probably see it there. I think they publish the numbers.
Share the numbers, but if you do your research, you'll figure it out.
I don't care, but I should discuss it with my partners to make sure.
No worries.
That it's okay that I just start sharing financials, right? But we're doing well. Yeah.
So where does that take you now? What's next? Like, what's the trajectory? What's the vision?
Yeah, so we actually published something called the Vivid Vision. So you can also search for that. Like if you just type in Power Search for Vivid Vision, you'll see where we want to go. So one of our beliefs is that you need to be really clear about what the future looks like, not just for your employees, but your customers and everyone you talk to. So we wrote it down in like a 3-pager and published it. We share it with everybody. And it's called the Vivid Vision. And basically, it's to write down what the company is going to look like in 3 years from now, what it looks like, feels like, and all that stuff, from revenue to people to the space. Like, and we're already well on our way. Like, I don't know if you can see the space, but like, I'll just kind of show you around. Like, we've got this great big room and office that's out here, values on the wall, all kinds of stuff that's going on. Like, we made changes as well too, in the last year and a half, things like giving every employee 5 weeks vacation from the beginning. We've got benefits, education days, you name it. these are all part of that. So look it up online. You can see it. If you don't have a vivid vision for your own company, I recommend that you do it. Where we got the idea from was actually, it's not my idea. It's Cameron Harold's idea. He wrote a book, and that's one of the things in his book. We also hired him as a business coach for a while.
Nice.
So one of the things I think that everybody should have, and every entrepreneur should have a coach. And you probably change your coaches every year or two, get a new perspective, but you should always have a coach, be coaching someone and building something at the same time, right? So you have the whole ladder, but you need the third-party eyes to help you grow, right? So he gave us all those ideas. He's the one who actually built up College Pro Painting.
Oh, wow.
Weight 100 Got Junk. He runs now the Coup Alliance, which is just the CEO alliance. And if you have like a operations person that needs training up, he definitely offers some amazing coaching and training for those people. And he really helped us with our operations. We spent about a year with him. It was great. That was a big game changer for us.
Yeah, it's funny. When it comes to coaches, mentors, advisors, that kind of stuff, I have a belief. I kind of look at it that you need three in your life. You need the coach, who's kind of a step or two ahead of you, who is in the trenches, can help you actually with the implementation and the strategy and whatnot. Then you need the guy who's a few levels above you, who's more of an advisor, who's more helping you with the vision. And then you need the kind of high level mentor who's like realms above you, who helps you a lot more on your mindset. That's how I kind of look at it. Because if you're working on your mindset with somebody who is a billionaire, and your goal is to become a billionaire, well, guess what? You're going to start thinking like a billionaire, which helps you move towards that. But unfortunately, a billionaire cannot help you with the day-to-day because they don't understand your problems anymore, right? Yeah. So you kind of need that person who's more in the trenches on the operational side and whatnot. So
totally.
Absolutely.
Even just have empathy for you, right? At the time, sometimes you just need a pair of ears and someone to say, you can do it, and I just did it, and you can do it too, man. Like,
exactly.
Hang in there.
Are you looking to diversify now? Are you guys going to stay 100% in the service business and focused on our clients, or are you looking to kind of go and diversify and build software? Are you looking at mergers and acquisitions at this stage, buying up other agencies and taking over their client base? Is that even thoughts?
So I think that the stage that we're at is just to stay focused on where we're on, continue to keep growing and get better and better at what we're doing. We're not interested in building software at all. That's just noise and a distraction. We'll let other people do that. Leave it to you. You're doing a better job at it than we would ever do. That's not our thing. Sometimes it's really important to learn how to say no. You know what I mean? No's actually that's been I've learned that lesson the hard time many times. Even for leads that come in, we're saying no to 90% of people that come to us. We now pick who we want, which is a great place to be in. But you gotta learn how to say no. So no software, and then in the sense of acquiring other businesses, it's stuff that we've talked about, but I would imagine that we are 2 or 3 years away before we could actually do that, because you need to have a lot of cash to do that. But it would make sense to grow at some point through M&As, right? So makes sense.
Cool. I'm just gonna. There's a bunch of questions. I just see comments, and I've been kind of peeking over, but haven't really looked at it. So let's have a quick check just to see what people are asking. What are some books you recommend for someone who's starting and does not have money for coaching? Where did you get your outsourced services when you couldn't do it by your own?
Sure. 2 questions. So listen, a great way of getting education is today. Look, everything's at your fingertips. One, you can Google it. Okay. So there's no excuse, Google it. There's probably a how-to video on how to do it. 2, there's some great podcasts that you can listen to that are free, that have tons of information. So if you want to be an agency, there's 2 or 3 agency podcasts that you can listen to that are very, very specific. And then if you want to do something that's specific to a very type of marketing, like SEO or Facebook, there are ones for that as well too. Just Google it, or you could even just go over the core, and if it's not already written down what the best ones are for that, it'll list it off. Some of my favorites, podcast wise, I'll bring them up here real quick on my phone, and I'll tell you. One is perpetual traffic. Digital marketing it's great, right? I mean, so if you're in Facebook advertising, but anything to do with funnels is great. Agency ones that are good, building a better agency is great. The Cameron Herod's new one, the Second in Command, is a good one. One that's underestimated is not really like one that you would think about, but Community Made is a fantastic podcast as well too. In general, a lot of business owners are in there. Are some that off the top of my head that are great. And then of course like Audible. So, I probably spend a couple hours a day learning every day. I'm either listening to a podcast or an audiobook, and I pop it in when I go to the gym in the morning. I pop it in on my subway commute into work, and then I walk home every night and I listen to it then too. So there's no excuse not to be able to associate yourself with people who are much smarter than yourself, and you can learn from them. Like, I didn't always have mentors or friends that were in this, but my books and podcasts, and before Audible, I read books, and it's there, man. Like, it's at your fingertips. I don't think anybody has any excuses. Anybody who says they can't get it is just, they're lazy.
Yeah, and that's look, they're at your fingertips, like you just said. You pulled them up, and always be learning at the end of the day.
So you can download it for free half the time. You just type in the book name dash PDF. There's a PDF that you can just grab and download, or go to the library. It'll even be like with the library, you need access to the audiobooks if you can't afford Audible. Like, there's no excuses.
There's so many incredible podcasts and whatnot. So that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a question over here. Over the past few years, there has been an explosion of digital agencies, many of which are competing on price. How's that affected your business, and are your margins at risk from it? If so, how do you position to avoid reducing margins to win business?
Yeah, sure. Great question. Price is always something that I think, as anything develops, there's always someone who's going to do it cheaper, right? Again, it comes into building value, right? This is why positioning is so important and strategy is so important. If you're just competing on the exact same thing and you don't look different than anybody else, then you're always going to be talking about price. So the way we built a moat around our business is we created positioning. We have a process called the intent engine. And it's a very specific process that looks at what your very best customers want before, during, and after visiting your website. And then we figure out how to give it to them. Because if you do, it's just going to increase conversions and lower CPAs and lower CPLs and lower CPCs and so forth. So it's great. And when people see it, they go, oh my God, I wish I was doing this sooner, right? And then price is no longer an issue. And they're like, we have to work with you, right? There is no one else like you. So do that. That's the key. And yeah, that's
well, it comes down to what you just said. Like, it's the intent engine is what makes Powered by Search different than everybody else. You can go to everybody else, but you won't get the intent engine. That's what it comes down to. So do you want everybody else's stuff, or do you want the intent engine? Because the intent engine has given all of these people incredible results.
That's right.
And that's what it really comes down to. And that's how you kind of look at it.
I think the other question too, the flip coin that people need to understand about margins isn't just about also like selling and having position. It's also about being fiscally responsible, right? Like in your business. So like making sure that you hire the right talent, you have a good labor efficiency ratio that's going on, you have processes in your business. Like, you can get so much bloat from so many different things, even being responsible for canceling software and tools as you go. I know you don't want to hear that, but yes, you should get rid of tools that are not being used. We all get
Funnelytics. Don't cancel.
Except for Funnelytics. Funnelytics is great.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's the only one you need, really. No,
it's the only one you need. That's right. But at the end of the day, like often, like you'll see agencies, you do a review of like their costs, and it's split between tools and software and labor. And often there's a lot of times they don't need as much labor as they have. They just need better talent. Or two, they could cut probably 3/4 of their software because they saw some video, they got wowed by it. It was a green shiny object. They bought it, they forgot about it, and then it's been running for the last 2 years on recurring payments when they could have just said, you know what, let's consolidate it into 2 or 3 tools. So that part is really important for margins too. Like that's how you can lose margins in your business if you're not careful. So not just about positioning.
At which stage do you think, so this comes back because I actually just hired a CFO. She's actually on the call right now. Cool. But at which stage do you think a business should look at really having somebody dedicated to the numbers, dedicated to the spreadsheets and looking at the forecasts and cash flow and figuring out how best to optimize those margins?
Yeah, I think that, so today there's all kinds of software that'll help you do it, so most company owners are visionaries. They're not very good at the books, but sometimes you get an owner that's more, accountant type base, which is great. But you definitely need to, hire a third party, even if it's a contractor or another pair of eyes that regularly goes through your stuff. So one is it's garbage in, garbage out. You must write it down, right? And then every month you must look at it and have the conversation for even just 15 minutes. This is not stuff you can fix at the end of the year, right? Later on, you need to fix it in real time. So one of the biggest mistakes any business or even agency will make is being too slow to make changes that may happen in the business. So it's just a part of business. You have to learn how to do this and get good at it and hire help if you're not great at it. So when I did SBOC, I was not good at it. I made some terrible decisions that way, and my books were a mess. And then
me too.
And then once I partnered, my partners were really good at doing it. I learned a lot. I've gotten better now, so I'm amazing at it, but it didn't come natural to me. And also, even at home, I got my wife. She does all the books, and she is amazing at it, really, really good at it, and she likes doing it. So I'm like, for sure, you go do this, and you tell me, what needs, even to someone saying you're spending too much money here, you have to cut something. What are you going to cut? And then it starts the right kind of conversations, So you got to do it. And there's good software too, and lots of good consultants. We've hired a consultant before, Crabtree is their name, is who we hired to come in and really help us do better forecasting. Because it's not even just like when you get bigger, it's not about just doing the bookkeeping. You actually have to have forecasting and know where you're going, where you're going to end up. Because what you do in the first quarter determines how your last quarter is going to end up. So it becomes a different type of thinking. So the pressure's on for a lot of companies in the first and second quarter because you can't change it after that, right? Especially for agencies who are about recurring revenue. If you don't hit your targets Q1, that's it. You're done. The year's over, right?
Yep, definitely. You can't pay anybody in here. It's over. Game over.
Game over.
That's the game we play called business. And when there's no money in the bank, it's time to hit the reset button. Basically.
That's scary. Thank God I haven't had to do that.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. But we see it happen, right? You walk down the street and you see how many businesses close. The reality is 80% of businesses close in the first 5 years, and the remaining 5 years, another 80% close. So if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. It's not easy. You need, this stuff is not easy. So that's the thing that I always hate about so many podcasts. And even like today, hopefully you're getting that from me, is people like to paint all their successes and how easy it is and rah, rah, rah. But the reality is it's a lot of hard work, takes a lot of hustle. And it's not going to be all roses, man. So you got to know what you're signing up for. But if you can get through it, there's some fantastic, amazing benefits that come on the other side. So today I don't work 15 hours a day. I don't work overnights. I start my day at 10. I leave at 5. I have a much more balanced life with my family and my kids. Things are good, but it didn't happen overnight, and it took a lot of work.
Yeah. We got a couple of time for maybe we'll wrap this up soon, but we got a couple more questions. Actually, there's a lot more questions, but people want to win the book. Can you see the chat?
I can see it. Yeah, here. Let's see here.
Let's see if there's any questions that you find.
What helps clients retain? What helps retain clients longer? I got here. Here's one. What retains clients longer? So expectations and communication. That's what retains it. And then of course outcomes, right? You spoke about
what
community.
order?
Where you guys get together? Which one?
You said expectations, communication, and outcomes. In terms of client retention, in what order? What do
expectation?
By far is the thing that makes people.
Communication is universal, period. So even sales, being a good salesperson is just being a good communicator. But communications is just a universal overarching thing. You must have that at all time with all clients and be able to effectively do that at the style that they want it in, right? So each client's different and expects a different way of communicating. So you must identify real quick how they like to be communicated with and then do that, right? Two, expectation setting is really good. So one of the things that we've learned to do is it's not about us that owns the end result. Client also owns it too. So all clients, when we start with them, right, seeding it from the beginning, like one of the first things we'll say is, look, our best clients are good at doing 4 things, okay? They're quick to implement, whether that's them doing it or us doing it. Obviously, we make recommendations and it doesn't get done, it's not gonna work, okay? Can you agree to be quick to implement it? If you don't, you must contract it to us. Cool? Cool. 3 are all bucketed into communication. The first one is if you don't understand what is going on, you're quick to say, what is going on right now? Okay, like I don't understand, because often like us as marketers, we forget we have the curse of knowledge and we're talking a bunch of acronyms, geek talk, and they don't want to ask a stupid question, but if they're not clear on what it is that you're working on, then we have misalignment, right? Or Frankenstein marketing campaigns with other parties that are doing marketing as well. So they must be quick to raise their hand when there's any kind of confusion. The third is they must be quick to give feedback, okay? In the sense of take the kids' gloves off and tell us if something went wrong. In any relationship, if we work together for a long time, something is going to go wrong. I guarantee you it will happen, but we can't fix it if we hear about it 3 months later, right? I need it in real time, same day or next day. And the last one is you need to be quick to celebrate the wins, right? Because nobody wants to work with a Debbie Downer. So I seed all of those things up front. If you can do those 4 things, we can do our thing and it's gonna be great. If you don't do those things, our thing's not gonna work. And we actually literally put in the contract for them to sign off on those 4 things. Like it's in the agreement, like you must do these things. Because anytime you have a party, it takes 2 to make it work, right? So if only one person comes to the party, it's not, or we're not the hired help, we are the extension of their team. And so these kind of, client expectations are really, really important to make it work. And if you don't do those things, then you're definitely gonna run into problems. And you need to do it from day 1 on the first sales call.
Oh man, that is gold. Setting client expectations, like it's something we struggled with very much. I think most startups struggle with it at the very beginning. Just understanding those 4 points that you just mentioned is going to help alleviate so many problems. And that's part of the 9 years of you going through the trial and error. And guess what? You get to skip that now because you just learned that so quickly. Here's an interesting question for somebody who is starting out. When is the right point of time to hire your first employee? I'm working as a freelancer, have quite a few clients, but struggle to take the next step and scale it up. Starting with VAs first, collaborate with other freelancers. What are the boxes you have to tick before you kind of change from a freelancer to an agency? Yeah, it would be great to get your opinion on this.
Yeah, so VAs is good. That's a good way of dipping your toe in, like to begin with, to free up some time, right? And then, of course, contractors. You should always contract the work out until it becomes about 1.5 times the cost, and then you can bring it in-house and then start duplicating yourself in-house. But always start off contractor. It's actually cheaper with contractors to begin with because you don't have office space, overhead, benefits, management time. Also remember the contractor, you're paying for an outcome. So often you say, do this thing and they do it. As opposed to an employee, you're actually teaching them how to do it. You have to inspect to see what you expect and all this other stuff that comes along with it. Yes, it's cheaper in the long run, but in the short term, it's actually not, especially when you don't have a lot of time. So as you're scaling out and starting, just contract everything, VA everything. And then once they become 1.5 the cost of what an in-house person would, then bring it in-house and do the other work.
Yeah, the one thing I can add to that, you kind of mentioned is when you're working with freelancers, if you want to do a good job, you kind of have to tell them the tasks that you want them to do, and that's what they go and do. But when you're working with employees, if you really want to leverage your employees, ultimately they're smart, they have their own superpower. What you need to be doing is actually setting a clear expectation of what the goal is, but let them figure out how to get to that goal as opposed to laying out their tasks in detail. Because once you do that, if you start, then you end up micromanaging, you end up having to check their work and then reassign new tasks, and they're always coming to you, when in reality, if you say, this is the goal that we want to achieve, you kind of let them take that ship. But you can't do that with people who you outsource to. It just doesn't work. They're task-driven, freelancers most of the time. So because they have a lot of other clients and whatnot. Yeah.
Cool. Well, listen, man, I know we're only about 1 minute away, and I'm about to get on a call with Joe Boxer. So
awesome. So tell me the two best questions, and I will give those guys their prize. And hey, thank you so much.
All right.
You taking the time.
Hey, man, no problem. That was fun. We'll have to do it again. That was that 1 hour went by so fast. I think one of the best ones was let's see. I think Mark had a good one that was about how do you keep your margins. I think that was good, and position yourself to avoid margins. I thought that was a good one. And then I thought a good one was Ray. What do you find retains clients longer was a good one. How about those two?
Done. There you go, Ray and Mark. You guys get a book on behalf of Matt. From me on behalf of Matt. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, thank you so much again, Matt, for joining and for sharing your wealth of expertise. I'm going to let you go. We'll chat very soon, buddy.
Sounds great. It was great. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.